We are live.
It is Friday, and Lizzie, we're glad you're listening. Drive careful, but if you go on the rewatch and watch it, I'm wearing my Lannister outfit with the red and the vest and all that kind of stuff, just in case you can't see it, and still wearing the cowboy hat. But
And yes, I'm wearing triple Targaryens.
I am old new dude. He is,
Richard York, Asher's trueborn son.
and this is Tyrion 4, Clash of Kings, and it's Friday, 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 Friday. Ooh, I got another week, I think, or a week and a half till my kids go on spring break, and I'm dreading it already. So there's that. All right, if you watch any of these, we start with the brains of the operation, which is Richard. He will say what he saw in the chapter, and then I will jump in with my stupid stuff. And to be honest, when I read the chapter, I didn't write a single thing down. Didn't nothing pop in my head. I don't know if I'm just
It's
tired.
it's I've been thinking about our analysis of the how how Eddard and Tyrion are supposed to be parallels to each other and so forth, and I feel like this is his quest is to figure out who's correctly loyal to the region. Whereas Ned is trying to solve the murder mystery, right?
Right.
And in a sense, they both get it wrong, right? Because Tyrion takes the one person who's actually loyal and arguably the head of his family is the regent, not the hand, right? So the one person who's actually loyal to his family, who he's supposed to be loyal to, he fools himself into not trusting,
Right.
fools himself into trusting the two that are actually trying to destroy his family. Meanwhile, Ned thinks that the murder is about the incest, and it's actually about the fostering of Sweet Robin, right?
Right.
So in a sense, there is sort of a parallel there.
You stretch it out a little bit and squint. Of course, there is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna step up. I'm gonna step away for a second. I made the ultimate mistake, especially with my throat. I forgot my drink. It is Dr Pepper Zero, so it's zero sugar. I've lost another 3 pounds in my quest to drop weight, but I'm gonna grab my drink while you start.
All right.
Take it away.
So as we said, this is the 1, 2, 3 chapter. I do not sleep as I did when I was younger, Grandmaster Pycelle told him by way of apology for the dawn meeting. I would sooner be up, though the world would be dark, than lie restless abed, fretting on tasks undone, he said, though his heavy-lidded eyes made him look half asleep as he said it. I can definitely relate to the not sleeping as I did when I was younger, that's for sure. In these sad times, when so many hunger, I think it only fitting to keep my table spare. Commendable, Tyrion admitted, breaking a large brown egg that reminded him unduly of the Grand Maester's bald spotted head. I take a different view. If there is food, I eat it, in case there is none on the morrow. Sacrifices that benefit nobody don't really impress me personally. Kind of remind me of Vincent Van Gogh, or at least his cover story for why he lost his ear. Some people claim that was just a cover story. He'd been fighting with a friend, but anyway. One letter in 2 copies. Send your swiftest birds. The matter is of great import. Birds, plural. We'll get back to that. Pycelle moved so slowly that Tyrion had time to finish his egg and taste the plums, overcooked and watery to his taste, before the sound of wings prompted him to rise. He spied the raven dark in the dawn sky and turned briskly toward the maze of shelves at the far end of the room. The raven is singular, like the little brother. Use of the definite article means there are not 2. Also, as with the Valonqar.
Now, that would mean that as soon as he saw the one raven, he knew that Pycelle had read the other one.
Right, but he still wants to test the other 2, right?
Right. Well, I mean, he knows he read it, but he doesn't know if he would send it to the queen yet. So he knows he's sneaky, but he doesn't know exactly how far that sneakiness goes.
Yeah, in my notes here, I put C Triple Figures episode 6, right? So I was bringing up the Valonqar and the fact that the little brother doesn't mean that you have 2 little brothers, and the one that's less little is the little brother. That's not how the word "the" works.
Right.
An orderly mind, Tyrion reflected, And indeed, once you puzzled out the arrangement, it was easy to see that every potion had its place. And such interesting things. He noted sweet sleep and nightshade, milk of the poppy, and the tears of bliss, powdered greycap, wolf's bane, and demon's dance, basilisk venom, blind eye, widow's blood. Standing on his toes and straining upward, he managed to pull a small dusty bottle off the high shelf. When he read the label, he smiled and slipped it up his sleeve. How low is this high shelf that Tyrion can reach it by standing on his toes?
I'm assuming it's like a small bookcase.
Yeah, a high shelf just isn't very high in this case, I suppose. But
I'm assuming that
actually,
George didn't play it out in his head like he always does, and it just sounded good, but he didn't
yeah,
realize he wasn't
yeah, that's
playing
not
with the
sure if
physics.
maybe nobody would call it a high shelf besides Tyrion. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. Well, yeah, stop and think too. You got Grandmaster Pycelle, even though we know in the show he's pretending to be a lot slower and older than he is. Is it
Well, this is a high shelf narrator. It was a regular shelf.
there you go.
Narrator. Narrator. It was a regular shelf.
That's a good one, Lady Thistle. Happy Friday. But I would think that even with Pycelle's advanced stage, he wouldn't want to be reaching too
Yeah, it's
far up.
possible.
So he's going
Right.
to
He
keep
may be
stuff.
hunched over. He
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily look like he absolutely doesn't look like he does in the
Yeah.
show, right? He's supposed to have apparently a bald head that this egg reminds Tyrion of and so forth. So
Yeah. Now, is it in the book that he's playing Possum on how slow he is? I can't remember.
No, I don't think we've ever actually had that revealed, or maybe there's some clues I just haven't seen them. But he does seem to be incredibly competent, especially in the later books, and even here he arguably is, right? I mean,
Well, I mean,
if you
he
actually
does have
take a look back
his serving woman in his bed. So whether it's a potion that's helping him get things along and having a party, he's still able to.
yeah, there's lots of things that'll help with that. Some of them are older over the counter herbs and things. So yeah, it is interesting to see the list of poisons and medicines and things, right? Like sweet sleep, we know is going to be used with sweet robin.
Yeah.
Milk of the poppy, we've heard of many times. Nightshade is sort of a classic. The tears of bliss is kind of important.
It's funny that was put in the exact middle.
Yeah, the powdered gray cap might be, that kind of goes to Tyrion and the poison mushrooms versus non-poison mushrooms that he deals with Illyrio and Dance.
Yeah.
Nightshade again is another classic. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I skipped up one line. Whoop's Bane, okay. It's
now in the
Stance.
show,
I don't know what Demon Stance is.
Yeah, well, in the show, the dart that kills Locke at Harrenhal, Tywin calls it Wolfsbane.
Okay.
So it was an instantaneous kill from a dart at Wolfsbane.
Okay. Basilisk venom is what Arya thinks was used by Jaqen H'ghar, right?
Mm.
She thinks that basilisk venom was used on what's his name's dog
Yeah. Now in the show, going back and forth, basilisk venom thickened is what Oberon Martell uses as his poison of choice for his blades. That's what was used on the mountain. Yeah, on the show.
Really?
I don't know this in the book.
Isn't the books? Am I wrong, or isn't basilisk venom the one that's supposed to make dogs go crazy and stuff? Yeah, right. No, Lady Thistle, ambiguous, totally intended to be ambiguous. I said Arya concludes that, not that we concluded that. Arya's conclusion is that it's basilisk venom. I think the basilisk venom is the one that
Lady Thistle will keep you on your toes. That's for sure.
No. I specifically phrased it that way because I think we're supposed to be very much ambiguous and wondering, did the skin change? Was it poison? But Arya implies that she thinks that this poison, I think it's basilisk venom. Yeah. No, I appreciate that, Lady Thistle. So I get that you weren't accusing us of jumping to that conclusion. I'm just saying that in fact, if anything, we tend to assume that when there's multiple answers, that the characters are
Yeah.
usually wrong.
In my mind's eye, I see Lady Thistle teaching a class of A Song of Ice and Fire at a college as the professor. Uh, and it's the class that I
Blind
would
Eye.
definitely take.
Blind Eye is perhaps the poison being used on Arya to give her blindness.
Right.
Widow's Blood. I don't know about that one.
Hmm.
Anyway, I just thought it was worth looking through those for a second.
Yeah.
Kind of a who's who of the poisons, as it were.
Yeah. I wonder if we'll see actually every one of them used in the story.
That could be.
Hmm.
Butter and honey were seldom seen in King's Landing of late, though Lord Giles kept them well supplied in the castle. Half of the food they ate these days came from his lands or Lady Tanda's. Rosby and Stokeworth lay near the city to the north and were yet untouched by war. So Stokeworth will be lawless in bronze,
Right.
and Rosby will be held by the unnamed ward, possibly Oliver Frey. And then if Cersei echoes Rhaenyra, then this ward will likely refuse her entry in Winds of Winter.
Okay.
The council exists to advise the king, Maester. Just so, said Pycelle, and the king is a boy of 13. I speak with his voice. So you do, indeed, the king's own hand. Yet your most gracious sister, our queen regent, So Pycelle believes the authority comes from the king and regent. He's just somewhat dishonest with Tyrion, pretending to go along with Tyrion's plans behind the back of Cersei, but loyal to who he reasonably believes is the ultimate authority. Meanwhile, Littlefinger and Varys are both plotting to destroy his entire family.
Yeah.
Doubtless you have the right of it, my lord. It is most considerate of you to spare her this burden. That's just the sort of fellow I am. Yeah, sure.
Well, I mean, we know that by the Raven and the Night that Tyrion knows that Pycelle read it, and his wording coming back from that, it's like he's egging Tyrion to spill the beans, but he sounds like he already knows, just in the way he speaks of it.
Yeah. All right. A most uncommon woman, yet it is no small thing to tend to all the cares of the realm, despite the frailty of her sex. Oh, yeah, she's a frail dove. Just ask Eddard Stark. Look, this might be one of our best hints at how sexist the Maesters are. As we've mentioned in previous streams, the Maesters, the Septons, and the Hightowers represent the patriarchy in our world, and the erasure of Asher's. The DONAC triple trigger as episode 1.
Yeah. And for Lizzie, that would be 3, counting the shirt.
Be so good as to inform me at once, should we receive a reply from Dorne. As you say, my lord, and only me? Ah, to be sure. Pycelle's spotted hand was clutching at his beard the way a drowning man clutches for a rope. It made Tyrion's heart glad. One, he thought.
Mm-hmm.
Step 1 in Tyrion's quest to fool himself into trusting his enemies and arresting his family's best asset.
Yeah, he's under the false imprint. He's under the false assumption that out of the 3 people, he knows he can't trust Littlefinger. He just found out that Pycelle is sneaky as shit.
Right.
Even if they don't tell the queen, that doesn't mean he can trust them.
No.
It has nothing to do with trust.
If anything, it means they're trying to gain his trust, right?
Exactly. The only one left to him is Varys, and just like Ned trusting Littlefinger, he's limited on who he can trust.
Sort of implied that they can't trust each other. He sort of implied it in the last episode, which was the same one where it was sort of paired with the Littlefinger telling him you shouldn't trust me.
Right. They
anyway.
both need things from each other, and they're willing to tolerate each other to get those things, and they talk in a jovial manner to, I'm assuming, to make light of how little they should be trusting each other. Their conversations are usually kind of chipper.
Yep. He's the best of them, but watch him. He falls into a rhythm, delivering the same strokes in the same order each time he attacks. He grinned. That will be the death of him the day he faces me. He's pledged to Joffrey. He's not like to face you. Will Sir Talad the Tall face Bronn in a later book?
That would be nice. That
especially
would.
give, especially given that Tyrion's likely to be on a different side than Tommen, right? And so
Yeah.
Bronn could potentially turn on Tommen and his forces. So you definitely see it happening.
Now, trying to figure out Bronn's actions now that he's the Lord of Stokeworth, after all that he's done since leaving Tyrion,
Hmm.
trying to figure out where he falls in all this is not an easy task. Um,
Right, but you can certainly see the possibility of the two of them
yeah,
would be on opposite sides. So
yeah.
it's
I
certainly
mean,
not a
Tyrion would
question.
automatically assume that Bronn would be to his side. I would think.
Well, and he might be right because if he's foreshadowed to face Sir Tala the Tall, and if Sir Tala the Tall sticks with Tommen, and if Tyrion is invading, you could easily see that be the case.
Yeah.
Send her my regrets. No taste for stuffed goose? Braun grinned evilly. Perhaps you should eat the goose and marry the maid. Or better still, send Shaka. Shaka. Shaga's more like to eat the maid and marry the goose, observed Braun. Anyway, Lawless outweighs him. So I wonder if this was the German idea for Braun, or more accurately for George.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he said when Braun and the other sellsword, I can't remember what his name was, Cheese or whatever. Um, one of them was going to be the sword that defends Tyrion, and then be a person to bounce things off of while he makes his way back to King's Landing. And as the story of Braun, when he picked Braun just because he had a better name, the story of Braun tend to grow as he was writing the character. Not as much. He was
Well,
shocked that he
and
was as popular in the show as he was,
but
but
at this point, he's not somebody um, that the Stokesworths would consider marrying
right,
to. But Lawless is going to be viewed as spoiled, and he's going to be promoted tonight, and that
yeah.
so the matchup becomes politically viable, and then he really does marry the maid,
The
even
the
if she's clearly not
downfall
a
of House
maid.
Stokeworth, without a doubt.
There's a moneylender from Bravos holding fancy papers and the like. Requests to see the king about payment on some loan. As if Joff could count past 20. Send the man to Littlefinger. He'll find a way to put him off. Next, a lord leaned down for the trident. Says your father's men burned his keep, raped his wife, and killed all his peasants. I believe they call that war. Tyrion's such a nice guy.
Yeah,
Anyway,
his good-hearted nature doesn't show out all the time.
he definitely has a
I
streak
don't-
of not so niceness to
yeah, a
him.
streak of Lannister.
Yes. I'll make time for him on the morrow. Whether truly royal or merely desperate, a compliant river lord might have his uses. I don't think they ever get back to this, but it sounds
Not,
like somebody that we kind of should have kept our eye on if they ever revealed who it was.
yeah.
They want protection. Last night a baker was roasted in his own oven. The mob claimed he charged too much for bread. Did he? He's not apt to deny it. They didn't eat him, did they? Not that I've heard. Next time they will, Tyrion said grimly. Cannibalism in this story?
Yeah. Well, isn't there already questions of what's in the brown stew and flea
Oh,
bottom?
definitely. Yeah, he mentions that actually earlier, just a little bit before this, and he says probably fish, given that that's where most of our meat comes from. At least I hope it's fish.
Yeah,
So anyway, um,
that's pork stew, man.
yeah, or blood sausages. Those are the
Yeah,
two things that we see
spotted
most
dick.
often. Right? Pork and blood sausages are the things that they tend to tell us are the human is when they're consuming it.
Yeah,
If I give them bread today, on the morrow I'll have twice as many at the gates. Who else? A black brother down to the wall. The steward says he brought some rotted hand in a jar. Tyrion smiled wanly. I'm surprised no one ate it. I suppose I ought to see him. It's not Yorn, perchance. No, some knight, Thorn. Sir Alistair Thorn? Of all the black brothers he'd met on the wall, Tyrion Lannister had liked Sir Alistair Thorn the least. A bitter, mean-spirited man with too great a sense of his own worth. Come to think of it, I don't believe I care to see Sir Alistair just now. Find him a snug cell where no one has changed the rushes in a year and let his hand rot a little more. Petty Tyrion possibly failing to save the world right here.
yeah. Also, I think it's a little bit of intervention too.
Singer stew, Lizzie says.
uh,
Yeah, we do know that.
out of all the potential people that Mormont could have sent, he knows there's animosity between Sir Alistair Thorne and Tyrion, just from that last supper they had with the fork and all that stuff. Um, the sending of Sir Alistair stops Tyrion from seeing the hand. If it had
Right,
been
but
any other,
it seems like if it was actually moving, then it wouldn't be referred to as just some rotting hand. It feels like it would have shocked people enough that they would have reported it to Braun. So I do have to wonder
yeah,
if it was already too late.
yeah, I
Maybe,
still think it's
maybe so.
a
Maybe it didn't actually, but it sure feels like this is a mistake. But
yeah,
he handles it as well as he politically can, right? And he kind of tells Alistair, "Look, I gave you literally everything you wanted. You're just insulted."
yeah. But it's still funny that it's Alistair. They're made to wait. Now when he gets seen,
Yeah,
the finger it's just bones in there. All the skin's done rotted off. If
yep,
they had seen a moving hand, then all kinds of other shit would happen in the story.
yep. Mounted on her white palfrey, Circe towered high above him, a goddess in green. Brother, she called out not warmly. The queen had not been pleased by the way he dealt with Giant Slint. Your Grace, Tyrion bowed politely. You look lovely this morning. Her crown was gold, her cloak ermine. Her retinue sat their mounts behind her. Sir Boris Blunt of the Kingsguard, wearing white scale and his favorite scowl. Sir Balon Swan, bow slung from his silver inlay saddle. Lord Giles Rosby, with his weaving cough worse than ever. Howleen the Pyromancer of the Alchemist's Guild, and the Queen's newest favorite, their cousin Sir Lancel Lannister, her late husband's squire, up-jumped tonight at his widow's insistence. Vylar and 20 guardsmen rode escort. So the goddess in green has a new favorite. In this case, she really is sleeping with her favorite.
Yeah.
I don't always believe that when the warden says that elsewhere.
I'm still amazed how many times that Cersei is paired with the color green, the color wildfire.
Yeah. Yep.
It's throughout the story.
Yep. I would not have it thought that all of us are as indifferent to the city's defense as you seem to be. Cersei fixed him with those clear green eyes of hers, beautiful even in their contempt. I'm informed that Renly Baratheon has marched from Highgarden. He's making his way up the Rose Road with all his strength behind him. Varys gave me the same report. He could be here by the full moon. Not at his present leisurely pace, Tyrion assured her. He feasts every night in a different castle and holds court at every crossroads he passes. And every day more men rally to his banners. His host is now said to be 100,000 strong. That seems rather high. He has the power of Storm's End and Highgarden behind him, you little fool, Cersei snapped down at him. All the Tyrell bannersmen but for the red wines, and you have me to thank for that. So long as I hold those poxy twins of his, Lord Paxter will squat on the armor and count himself fortunate to be out of it. A pity you let the Knight of Flowers slip through your pretty fingers. Still, Renly has other concerns besides us. Cersei seems justifiably concerned.
Can you imagine how prepared they would be if they had a common goal and worked together?
Yeah, yeah. I want you to make Father bring his army to King's Landing, where we'll serve no purpose but to make you feel safe. When have I ever been able to make Father do anything? It's a fair question.
Yeah, exactly.
Father must have been mad to send you. You're worse than useless. Well, he is kind of busy fooling himself into trusting your enemies.
Yeah.
In truth, Renly Baratheon did not frighten Tyrion half so much as his brother Stannis did. Renly was beloved of the commons, but he had never before led men in war. Stannis was otherwise, hard, cold, inexorable. If only they had some way of knowing what was happening on Dragonstone. Not one of the fisherfolk he paid to spy out the island had ever returned, and even the informers Yennefer claimed to have placed in Stannis' household had been ominously silent. The striped hulls of Lycian war galleys had been seen offshore, though, and Varys had reports from Myr of sail captains taking service with Dragonstone. If Stannis attacks by sea while his brother Renly storms the gates, they'll soon be mounting Joffrey's head on a spike. Worse, mine will be beside him. A depressing thought. He ought to make plans to get Shae safely out of the city should the worst seem likely. Too bad for the Baratheon brothers this doesn't happen. Speaking of people choosing to align themselves.
Yeah. Well, Salvador Stan has it right. If they attacked then,
Yep.
Stannis would have had King's Landing and the Iron Throne. Whether he'd been able to keep it is a different story, but they would have took King's Landing, relatively easy. They're not prepared yet.
Yep. As we see in Dance, that doesn't necessarily swing the whole war, though, but yes.
Yeah.
Pod, leave us, unless Lord Peter would care for some refreshments? Thank you, but no. Littlefinger flashed his mocking smile. Drink with the dwarf, it's said, and you wake up walking the wall. Black brings out my unhealthy pallor. Have no fear, my lord, Tyrion thought. It's not the wall I have in mind for you. He seated himself in a high chair piled with cushions and said, You look very elegant today, my lord. I'm wounded. I strive to look elegant every day. Two of the wittiest characters being witty.
Yeah. I know that the George R. R. Martin made it clear that he wanted Peter Dinklage to play Tyrion. I don't know the guy's name who plays Littlefinger, but again, masterful casting
Oh yeah.
with HBO. The guy, I mean, was he was Littlefinger without a doubt.
Yeah. That's a handsome knife as well, is it? There was mischief in Littlefinger's eyes. He drew the knife and glanced at it casually as if he had never seen it before. Valerian steel and a dragonbone hilt. A trifle plain, though. It's yours if you would like it. Mine? Tyrion gave him a long look. No, I think not. Never mind. He knows, the insolent wretch. He knows, and he knows that I know, and he thinks that I cannot touch him. If he was so indispensable, why did they replace him with Tyrion?
Exactly.
But do I dare touch him, Tyrion wondered. Even if he is a traitor, he was not at all certain he could, least of all now, while the war raged. Given they sent him off later, I fail to see why they wouldn't execute him, to be honest. This has always seemed somewhat inconsistent to me.
Yeah, I mean, there are people under him that do jobs that are part of the Master Coin's assigned task, and he was specifically sent by Tywin to heads rolls on spikes. I mean, Tywin was all for replacing the small council with better people.
And does replace Peter. That's the thing.
Yeah,
anyway.
I mean, he could have touched him, but I mean, Cersei would not have understood and would have blown a gasket, but he could have touched him. I mean, he could have done whatever he wanted with him. Tywin would have been fine with it.
Yep. I've heard it said that you grew close to the Tullys. You might say so, the girls especially. How close? I had their maidenhoods. Is that close enough? The lie, Tyrion was fairly certain was a lie, was delivered with such an air of nonchalance that one could almost believe it. Could have been Catelyn Stark who lied? About her defloration and the dagger as well? The longer he lived, the more Tyrion realized that nothing was simple and little was true. Characters are often wrong, but he's not lying, he's just incorrect.
Right. Well, that's the masterwork of George R. R. Martin. That's how he gets you off of the correct path, is by making you assume that you're on the right one, because you're not going to deviate from it because you think you're going the direction that he's taking you. And the same thing with Littlefinger. He assumed or thought that it was Cat when it wasn't.
Right.
So
there's a huge percentage of readers that probably think that Ned was or that John Arryn was killed for the incest, which no, it was for the Boston suit where
yeah.
If I gave her John Arryn's true killer, she might think more kindly of me. That made Littlefinger sit up. True killer? I confess. You make me curious. Who do you propose? George loves to tell us the truth and then pause and then change the meaning. And this is my favorite example, although Shadrach is close. In A Feast for Crows in Bran's first chapter. Who is this Sansa Stark? And why do you seek her? For love. Why else? She furrowed her brow. Love? Aye, love of gold. Right? And so the way he does this, when he pauses and then changes the meaning, like true killer, I confess, you make me curious, who do you propose? Right? Yeah. It's the pause, the comma, I confess, comma is he's told us the truth right there, right? It's a huge hint from the author. True killer, I confess. This is George telling us this is the true killer.
Yeah.
So it seems like he's telling us that Shadrach is actually looking for Sansa Stark for love.
Love.
Right?
And then what is it? Toodles with the Shadrach being Alan Reed.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that was probably one of the best things you sent me, and I know I got it this morning. I didn't catch it yesterday about the Jaime verses with George R. R. Martin.
Yeah, it's not that great. It is George writing about Jaime though, so it's from 2010.
Yeah, it's Jaime. I mean, but still, the Toodles with Shadrach was probably the best thing you've sent me. It's definitely. I know I sent it out to I don't know how many different people, um, uh, people that were associated like with gray area places like that. They never commented back or anything, just said thanks. But it's freaking beautiful. Sorry.
And to seal the bargain, I will give her my niece. He had the pleasure of seeing the look of genuine surprise in Peter Baelish's gray-green eyes. Marcella? When she comes of age, she can wed little Lord Robert. Until such time, she'll be Lady Lysa's ward at the Eyrie. And then we've got a little later. So, Lord Peter continued after a pause, utterly unabashed. What's in your pot for me? Harrenhal. It was interesting to watch his face. Lord Peter's father had been the smallest of small lords, his grandfather a landless hedge knight by birth. He held no more than a few stony acres on the windswept shore of the Fingers. Harrenhal was one of the richest plums in the Seven Kingdoms. Its lands broad and rich and fertile, its great castle as formidable as any in the realm. It's so large as to dwarf Riveron, where Peter Baelish had been fostered by House Tully, only to be brusquely expelled when he dared raise his sights to Lord Hoster's daughter. Littlefinger took a moment to adjust the drape of his cape, but Tyrion had seen the flash of hunger in those sly cat's eyes. I have him, he knew. Two, thought Tyrion. All right, on to Dorcas.
Yes.
A council seat is not to be despised, Varys admitted, yet will it be enough to make a proud man forget his sister's murder? Why forget? Tyrion smiled. I promised to deliver his sister's killers, alive or dead as he prefers, after the war is done, to be sure. Varys gave him a shrewd look. My little birds tell me that Princess Elia cried a certain name when they came for her. Is the secret still a secret if everyone knows it? In Castle Rock, it was common knowledge that Gregor Clegane had killed Elia and her babe. So I guess the name is Gregor? I guess that's what we're saying? Because
yeah,
I mean, that's the implication anyway, but of course, our characters are often wrong, so it makes me wonder if there's some other name that she might have been saying there or something.
well,
we
get the same kind of
probably overthinking it.
Like when Peter's talking to Kat and he's talking about, well, does Lord Varys know? And then he cuts her off. We don't get to hear what she was getting ready to say.
Right. That's
he
why
doesn't say
I'm
a name.
Curious. Right.
He does, yeah.
So is this Elia telling them that that she overheard or saw or whatever that the mountain killing her brother and mother, or is it something else? I don't know.
Hey, I'd like to know the name that Varys was getting ready to say.
Yeah, I want to know this name.
Yeah, because it's odd for George to put it in there. Because I mean, like you said, everybody knows it's the mountain.
Yeah, maybe Bran will have a vision of this or something.
Yeah, or we might get even more from Varys since he's still Dorcas. He's still in the story.
Yeah. If I were the prince, something more would I require before I should reach for this honeycomb. Some token of good faith. Some sure safeguard against betrayal. Varys smiled his slimiest smile. Which one will you give him, I wonder? Tyrion sighed. You know, don't you? Since you put it that way, yes, Tommen. You could scarcely offer Marcella to Dorne Martell and Lysa Arryn both. That's exactly what he did, but okay. Remind me never to play these guessing games with you again. You cheat. Prince Tommen is a good boy. If I pry him away from Cersei and Joffrey while he's still young, he may even grow to be a good man. And a good king? Joffrey is king, and Tommen is heir. Should anything ill befall his grace, Tommen, whose nature is so sweet and notably tractable. You have a suspicious mind, Varys. And finally, what Cersei does not know will never hurt me. And if her grace were to discover your intentions before your plans are ripe, why, he said, then I would know the man who told her to be my certain enemy. And when Varys giggled, he thought, 3. I'm not so certain about that.
Yeah. I mean, a part of me thinks that it is Varys that tells her about the Dorne plan and just totally throws Pycelle under the bus. Because, I mean, he knows about the Littlefinger to Marcella to Lady Lysa.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I mean,
we might be overthinking some of this, but
still,
yeah,
it's Varys. So, I mean.
Yeah. Or Dorcas, as we like to call him.
Talk about overthinking it. All right. I know a couple of weeks back we had mentioned something about the purple wedding, and we're talking about I think it's Preston Jacobs has it where the poison's on the pie and was meant for Tyrion.
Well, there's sure a lot of hints here of people wanting to make Tommen king again.
Yeah, but I'm still on with it was originally going, and the person to die was supposed to be Tyrion. But here's the thing, and it's a really weird idea. It's not a theory because I ain't found anything to back it up, and I haven't looked too far with it. But you have the Queen of Thorns messing with the hairnet, okay, and then she walks past to get to her seat. Well, she passes her grandson that's sitting directly beside Tyrion, and for all that we can tell in the books, it's the person that has the highest opinion of Tyrion. Was it Garland
Yeah,
Tyrell, something like that?
Garland. Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah,
people think Garland's the main architect of that murder.
right.
So,
I think she got the hairnet poison, gave it to
which
Garland. Garland is
which
the one that
I don't actually blame anyone for being involved. If the target is Joffrey, I don't blame anyone for being involved in this murder.
right. But I
But
mean, I still think it's Tyrion. He puts the poison in the pie instead of it being some random serving person that might work for Littlefinger. Um,
right, which is what Preston says. Yeah. So
yeah,
I I I, I mean I think we're specifically being told that I think there's too much of the Tyrells seeming to not care about this wedding and caring about the second wedding and so forth. And so
yeah.
anyway, I'm not sold on this. But I wanted to say I'm really more sold on Alaris as Sorella after reading the Young stuff. But so I don't know if you saw my tweet about Young, but so Carl Jung actually once wrote in a letter that basically he was talking about masculine being feminine and feminine being masculine, and that was sort of what the Sphinx meant. And he says that the man's soul is the Sphinx, and he has to solve the riddle.
Mm.
And it specifically is about feminine side of masculine people and masculine side of feminine people. So that ties the Sphinx to the idea of a gender swap, right? And Aller's name is Sphinx, and then um, so anyway, once I see that, I'm like, oh man, unfortunately that's pretty much of a nail in the coffin for me as to what's going on there.
Yeah.
I still think Shay knows too much about the
Well, I mean,
Martells.
I agree with Order of the Green Hand. I think Shay is Sorella.
Yeah,
What does that say? Joan.
Young, yeah,
Oh,
Carl Young.
I didn't know that.
That's how you spell
Trust me, I'm way out there with my Alaris identity. So
it. And
it's
and we have to realize that this is somebody who probably knows glamours. So, right, I mean, they're literally studying with Marwyn, who's the head of the higher mysteries. So they know all the conjurer's tricks as much
yeah.
as Dorcas does. Um,
Well, I mean, we know Fagon is not the swap baby of the original Aegon, but I think
right.
I think Alaris is Aegon. I think the baby swap did take place. I think that the Dornish looks fit. Originally, he was supposed to have Targaryen features, and then it was either retcon or later said there was some ambiguity on the appearance of the child. Um, so
Okay. We're
it's
pretty far
really
out
out
there.
there. I got nothing to back it up. It's just one of those. I'm like,
That's a little tinfoily, yeah.
yeah. Well,
Anyway,
I mean, I love some tinfoil. So I mean, it's a rabbit hole, but it's a really short rabbit hole because there's not a whole lot to back. Just like the Garland Tyrell putting the poison in Tyrion's pie. I mean, there's not a lot there, but it for me it makes for a really good
I,
story.
I, I actually do think that Marjorie probably poisoned Joffrey because I think you'd want to minimize the number of people on your. First off, you want Marjorie to know exactly when the poison occurs, right?
Right.
And so you're going to have to coordinate this and make it obvious to somebody standing right there what's going on.
Yeah,
That's so incredibly risky. People are like, oh well, they wouldn't risk Marjorie and have her handling the poison. I'm like, compared with not knowing for certain or having to coordinate the exact timing of the poison, no, you would have
that
Marjorie
makes
do
sense.
the actual poisoning. If the wine itself is poison, which is how the strangler works, right? I mean, this is sort of the straightforward explanation, right?
Yeah,
The Queen of Thorns would handing what looks like a gemstone, an amethyst, um, or Marjorie getting caught with what looks like an amethyst. Neither of those are really all that risky.
right.
Compared with the risk of trying to poison the very glass she's drinking from and communicate to her when the poison happens.
Yeah,
so to me, it's much less risky for her to have given the what looks like an amethyst to Marjorie to drop in there, right? So
Right.
you would
Well, I mean,
absolutely have to have her involved in the plot, or the risk would be
yeah,
if it's the wine, it almost has to be that way, right?
yeah. Well, I mean,
If it's the wine,
it's one of those situations. I can see it both ways. I mean, I'm Wimley from Fraggle Rock. I mean, whoever I talked to last is how I kind
yeah.
of
I
lean.
mean, and
Yeah,
as we say, it's supposed to be somewhat ambiguous. I think that's
right.
the point, right?
But
And
I
then
agree. I agree with that situation. And Marjorie having the poison,
yeah,
and Garland having the poison, depending on who was the target, it still puts the loop of people as family. They're part of the. They're not going to turn on each other. Marjorie's not going to say, "Hey,
right.
just
People
had
you
me
trust,
poisoned."
absolutely,
Right. They're,
yeah,
they're not going to trust some random server that. I mean, it's going to be somebody significant that's going to be in the chain of custody as far as the poison goes.
right.
So, regardless
The
of what
other
you
thing,
think, good.
the other thing that is completely unrelated to any of this stuff, but
Yeah, yeah.
you know, but LML is still always talking about this idea that if you engage in blood sacrifice, then you're evil, you're the evil villain. And I'm sitting there thinking, dude, you're always defending Danny, and she's the one that Birth of Dragons is one of the three big blood sacrifices in the story. It's going to be that one. It's going to be the resurrection of Jon Snow. It's going to be the restoration of balance. The point that George is making is that war is blood sacrifice, and he
Right,
specifically has said in interviews that while he's usually opposed to war, sometimes it's justified, right? And
right.
so he wants things to be gray and things to be complicated. And Danny birthing dragons is supposed to be one of those moments. It's supposed to be one of those moments where we're like, well, was she wrong to burn Mary Ma's door? And does it matter that doing so birthed dragons and was a miracle, right? And
Right.
so it's supposed to be gray and complex, and saying, oh well, anybody who chooses to blood sacrifice somebody else is automatically an evil villain, while also claiming that Danny's not an evil villain is inconsistent.
Well, I mean, it's like when we talked about the Miramax the first time you read through it, you're like, burn that bitch. I mean, she killed the baby, blah, blah, blah. You really hate this person. And then as you read it again, you're like,
If you stop and
Miramax
look at
was
her
correct.
point of view,
Yeah,
right?
I
If you
mean,
stop and look at her point of view, it makes a lot of sense, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so she is being sacrificed against her will. So by LML's logic, George only does that when that person is the villain. Is what
Well,
he claims. He keeps saying George would only do that if the person is the villain. I'm like, you're one of the ones who's put out videos saying that Danny's not the villain.
right.
How
Well, I
can you
mean,
then make that statement? It's very inconsistent. Anyway, it's something that's been
well, I mean,
bothering me because he does it over and over again.
this morning, I think he dropped a video. I haven't watched it yet about the resurrection of John. There's going to be a duplicate pyre to um, um, recreate the Drogon pyre.
Right.
And
Right.
Melisandre's going to walk into the flames.
And it's a
And
pretty
all
good
right,
theory. It's a pretty
well,
reasonable,
I
good
mean,
theory. I like it.
you got a fire. You have a person that has magical blood that's being sacrificed against their will. And then I haven't watched the video, but I'm assuming. I know what happens when you assume you make an ass out of you and me. But logically, in my mind, the person that's going to be put in that pyre against their will that has magic blood is going to be the Serene. It's going to be the burning
Yeah.
of Serene in the recreation of this pyre.
Could be.
Mel's going to walk in there, and I don't think this is the end of Mel. I mean, I think she's going to walk back out, same as Danny did. And then,
Right.
and
You'd
then,
think she'd be immune to fire.
right, and then with the spirit of Drogon on his horse at that moment of that pyre, I'm assuming is going to be the spirit of John going back into John. I
That makes
mean,
sense.
yeah. I mean,
That
I haven't watched the video yet. It's on the list. It's Friday. I got a lot of crap going on.
Yeah. He's
I
been
do
doing a
think from
lot of
now
his.
on, every Friday, because I have about 20 costumes over there, I will a different outfit to hopefully fit the chapter that we're reading. My Lannister red is reserved for
Yeah,
period.
I couldn't think of a shirt that was
I got a
appropriate
blue.
for
I got a blue Save the Lion on it.
some.
It's from Tiger World, but it's the wrong color. Somebody calling you?
Whoa, what?
I didn't want to talk to him.
I
can hear
think
you.
I'm talking through my watch now.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can still hear you. So I think every Friday I'm just going to do dress up just for shits and giggles. And then
Cool.
if the next Friday is a Stark, I will wear the Stark armor that just came in for fun. It's just something fun to do on Fridays. But next is Sansa.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the comes to Godwood tonight. If you want to go home. Oh,
Yep.
the beginning of that little story. But okay, you got anything else?
No, I think that's plenty.
Yeah, I know we got a little off topic, but it's Friday. I mean, I like it.
It's just fun to add a few other topics related to Song of Ice and Fire. I just thought worth talking about.
I like when we get away from the story of the chapter and we go a little bit to other things. I mean, normally we're just saying what other people said, but it's nice to throw it out there.
Who am I supposed to vote for, Dorcas or Cersei?
Oh man, I know it's Dorcas or Rhaegar.
No, that was a couple days ago.
Okay. Today, I haven't seen them doing it.
Today is Dorcas and Cersei. That's why I'm not sure who to vote for.
Dorcas, man.
All right, I'll do it.
You got to stick. I mean, Dorcas is such a good name. You got to stick with it. You have to see it through. I mean,
all right. That was what I was like.
Happy Friday. Thanks for the stream. I hope everyone has an excellent Lady Thistle. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
As always, I will see you tonight on the book club. I got to look to see which chapters it is, whether we're starting the Tyrion, the Battle of Blackwater or not. Lizzie, I hope you're driving carefully. I'm glad you listened to us. I hope you get the right material. Put some more pictures on. We appreciate them. And everybody have a safe weekend. I mean, it's raining where I'm at. I know there's some weather across the country that's not very nice. And that is a gorgeous dog. Battle of Blackwater. Yay! I can't wait. So we will see you Monday, same bat time, same bat channel with Sansa. And y'all have a good weekend. All right.
You too.
Take care. Bye.